Welcome to the Discourses for Higher Enlightenment channel and another session of the Medford and Anonymous series. Please stay tuned. Going to be giving Anonymous a call, and he always has good wisdom for us, insights.
Hiya?
Yes, Anonymous.
That's true.
Well, it's always good to hear from you and your insights. I remember the last time we spoke, you wanted to speak about the Lord's Prayer, and how the auras and the chakras connect to that.
Yeah, very, very, very important topic. Well, first of all, it's like the Lord's Prayer relating to chakras, relating to the endocrine glands, relating to the 7 colors of the rainbow, relating to John at Patmos when he was in the Spirit on the Lord's Day, meditating the last book of the Bible. And he heard to write, and he saw 7 angels, 7 churches, 7 candlesticks. So this is all, nothing new under the sun, as they say. It's just different terminology. Chakras, medically speaking, endocrine glands. Now, the value of this topic, I personally, at this point in life, don't see a more worthwhile pursuit for anybody to undertake, which is to say, to know ourselves, to really know ourselves. So I did jot down, actually I was writing this morning, about meditation and looking over the topic a little more. And the Lord's Prayer, it's a key for our real freedom, beyond the voting booth, folks. And as Jimi Hendrix said, are you experienced? Let's look at this in a new key, which seeking with a pure desire and determination will allow for a greater light to guide us through the coming dark times. Our bodies and minds are truly a temple of a living God. And when we use the visual map, I believe I sent you a picture of a map, Medford. When we use the visual map as a guide, it'll lead us into our essential nature of being. For truly, this promised revelation must be experienced to really be known. Everything I'm saying must be really experienced to be known. And for truly, wisdom is the right use of knowledge, which applied rightly allows us to grow gracefully and understanding that we and all life are connected. Famous Native American man said that, I think it was Chief Seattle, all life is connected. Yeah, right he was. So it's a knocking sincerely on heaven's door. Bob Dylan said that, right? Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. So it's knocking sincerely on heaven's door within us, that the opening of such shall reveal who we really are beyond our conditioned Wall Street political religiosity cells. We're really to be understood that we are sons and daughters of the Most High. And the experience of this love, which is beyond words, could be measured in progress along this path by the growths of the fruits of the Spirit. What are they? Fruits of the Spirit, the measurements of our growth along this process of practice. Joy, compassion, patience, that's a big one. Patience, forgiveness, long-suffering. I understand that more and more as I go along in life. Watching people who don't listen and the suffering they go through and passing away, and you watch, you can't do anything about it but witness it. That's long-suffering. I understand that much more now. And in summary, by our being more living, this is the sum total of it all. By being more living, this is how we'll measure our growth in this process. For those of us who really put this into practice, don't just keep it as an intellectual, endeavor, so that we can be a light of knowledge to those in dark places of ignorance, so we can be strong for the weary, to be as rivers of inspiration to those who are seeking a better way. So, now, people who may think this is airy-fairy or esoteric, it is very practical. This practice of the meditation and discovering through our endocrine glands, our chakras, we really are. Now, I like to say there are two books that were very helpful for those who pursue this further. LCC Christ, a very small pamphlet, Meditation Gateway to Light, beautiful book. And also connected to that is a book on the Revelation by J. Everett Irion on the Revelation, the education material. Very, very, very helpful for those who take this seriously and realize that any other direction, for the most part, is only going to lead you to a dead end. This subject is the key to your real freedom, because it ain't going to come in an election, as anybody who's thinking will know. It's going to come with your own preservation, your own preservation, your own persistency in discovering, with the working of the meditation, with the eating, as we discussed once before, eating right to keep your body temple clean so your nervous system can handle these frequencies. And number 3, do a good deed without, going out there as a business deal, making spirituality a business thing. As a lot of people do. And so, again, this topic of the Lord's Prayer, which is not often thought about as a practical thing, because once we start praying, we're thinking out of space. So I like to bring it back to where it was meant to be, the kingdom within. So, Medford, you have that diagram you can show to folks out there when you play this show, and they'll see the picture of the human body and the glands?
Yes.
Okay, so here we go. So when you see that chart and you're looking at the glands, the chakras, and the churches has talked about Revelation, the 7 angels, there's another good phrase, the 7 doorways. So, and I like to say, in ancient Egypt, they said the same thing. They put that sphinx with the lion body, human head, because when we guide our animal nature, we get access to the pyramid, which is the old temple, mosque, or synagogue. Before all the others got their different names, they got access to that initiation site, the pyramid, which is a reminder of what we are, a fire in the middle. And when we meditate, we get access to that sacred, all-seeing eye. So, the Lord's Prayer, as that greatest example of selflessness in history that I know of, expressed it. When we say it, and looking at that chart, you'll see, Our Father who art in heaven, look up into the pituitary area. Hallowed be thy name, sacred be thy name, up into pineal gland. Thy will be done, as you'll see on the thyroid. Thy will be done, thy will be done inert, and you look downwards towards the rest of the body, and the earth outside of us. Thy will be done inert, leading us not into temptation, right? You see the adrenal glands, fight or flight, leading us not into temptations. Actually, that's the lighting gland, solar plexus, leading us not into temptation, but delivering us from evil. That goes to the thymus, the heart. Then you go back up, for thine is the power, the kingdom, and the glory. You look up to the mountain from whence cometh to help. Now, the forgive us as we forgive, that's the adrenal glands. That's the fight or flight I was referring to before. So the whole prayer is a reference to the different parts of our body relating to the endocrine glands, relating to how we open these doorways to actually learn and experience who we really are, where the conscious mind, again, is merged into the subconscious mind, that wilderness, in the deepness of the meditation, the reflections, to, the most importantly, the superconscious mind, which is always aware, and that Lord our God is one, actually gets revealed in everybody's own personal revelation. So within this, you receive the strength, you receive the love, you receive the compassion, the joy. You'll smile without anybody being around. And again, this don't happen overnight. It didn't happen for me overnight. It took me 3 months to get a real good taste of it, so I learned that this is worthy to pursue, because, well, as you can see outside of us, most people just basically want to abuse and misuse us for their own egotistical purposes. So real freedom, folks, is that the keys to immortality, and it's to be experienced. And so, doing such, we will have experiences that are, first of all, fulfilling within ourselves with the communion of whatever term we put us here, and it all meets within us. And then we say our prayers, and then we come out and we do our good deeds. But that's the only antidote I know to the fear factor that's out there and what's coming in terms of global warming and the earth changes and the economic tsunami that they say is around the corner, to the pushing on China and Russia for these people actually thinking they can take over the whole world. So it's not going to be an easy ride, and the only thing I know, again, is this practice to keep you from medications, whether from the doctors. I was just hearing Dr. Bergen the other day on the show. They got new medications for kids that taste like gummies, like vitamins. Imagine that. Now, not only do they now label 6-month-old children bipolar, but they got these kids wanting to taste candies, tasting vitamins and altering substances that affect their empathetic centers in their forehead area, which we were just talking about the prayer.
So let me ask you. So, can you go through that again? So, as you're praying the Lord's Prayer, are you visualizing the chakras opening each time you recite that particular prayer relating to the particular chakra?
Well, you can use the colors again. They're the colors, and there are some guides in the.
I mean, what do you do with the chakras? I mean, let's say what was that again? You said.
Well, you focus on them.
You focus on them.
Where you put your attention. That's like knocking on each door, knocking on heaven's door. So when you're saying "Our Father who art in heaven," you actually focus your attention, because where the attention goes, that's in a computer. Where you send the attention, that's where the energy goes. So when you're saying "Our Father who art in heaven," think of your forehead. That's where he is. That's the. I mean, that pituitary gland, it's so small, it's the size of a pea. But if you had too much juice coming out of that, you got a 10-foot tall person. If you have too little juice, you got somebody who's only 2 feet tall.
Oh.
Now, those are physiological purposes, because it's part of the immune system and growth. But there's also, through the meditation, it's a doorway to the actual spiritual functions of those glands. They're the doorway between the spiritual world and the actual physical world. You see, like when Jacob wrestled with the angel, even right there is a clue. He wrestled with the angel at a place called pineal. See? The pineal gland, the all-seeing eye. He saw the angels going up and down the ladder, remember? So those are the chakras. Those are the symbolic, because we have to put symbols on the invisible to get a grasp with our brain, our material brain, get some kind of concept with images. But ultimately, the experience supersedes all images and even thoughts. See, that's why sometimes the Jews, metaphysical Jews, the Kabbalists, God is so sacred they don't even want to say the name. Honestly, you can't really say the name because God is beyond words. God is a spirit. But the sense of giving a sense of, understanding the holiness that we're so impure we don't even want to say the name. And I understand that. But truly, there's a part of us that's very holy also, because we're made in the image of likeness. So, we actually are, we can say our Father's name to the degree we can use that name, just like you say to your regular father, or mother. Because, they love us and we love them, and we have an intimate relationship. It's not like a fear factor, just like our parents, love us to the degree they knew how. The love of the Creator is way beyond, it reminds me, I talked with a religious person recently, and I said, with all your studies, a good person, other people are sincere with their heart, but the intellect sometimes it needs a little, tune-up. I said, with all your studies, do you believe that the God that is so much love we can barely comprehend it would actually put somebody in hell forever? And this is a sincere person that means well, good person. And she's thinking, well, under my studies, yeah. I said, you just disappointed me. I said, I agree with much what you say. You're a good person. You know the truth. It's like climbing a mountain. Nobody knows it all. I don't. But the higher up you go, the more you see. And like the fruits of the Spirit, the more loving you get. So, God, get a concept that God would put somebody in hell forever for, being ignorant. I don't think that's very loving. I mean, like somebody once said, even the mafia, you don't pay, they'll break your legs. It's painful. But some of these church figures, they got you in hell with devils torturing you forever. And that's who's got more mercy. All right? So basically, it's much greater than our concepts that most of us have been conditioned to believe. And this is the experience that one has, because when you go into this practice, and again, back to your question, Yes, you think of colors. There are colors with like with the rainbow, red. You go with you start the lower area of the page. The male will be the gonads, female will be your ovaries. You got red, orange would be like the adrenal glands. Yellow, the solar plexus. Green is the heart center. Blue, the thyroid. The pituitary, the pineal gland. You got indigo. And then the pituitary is seen as violet. Of course, all colors come out of that radiant white, and there's even gold there. Like the secret of the golden flower, or you see the gold painted around, the images in Russia, the icons. So again, these are just steps along the ladder till you get to the place where you probably can't even picture, because this is radiance, and the radiance that one experiences as deepest joy one can experience. And again, it's a lifelong pursuit. I actually dare say it's a lifelong pursuit, even in between, But listen, we're part of the eternal, so we have some time, right? But in this sense, in the world the way it is in crisis, it's serious to take this really and put it into application before it gets even more scarier for those who are not communing with their loving self and feeling that communion between them and, I dare say, the stars and the redwood trees, and the bees that are necessary for pollination, and our pets and the animals out there, unfortunately too many people are eating and getting sicker by doing such. And it's all connected, like.
Well, the creator's in everything.
That is true. Nothing can exist, without the creator. Even, you look at a plant, intelligence, like I said once before, mankind with all his smarts cannot make a little apple seed. Okay, so that intelligence that makes that repeatedly, following all these laws of life, never no aberrations unless Monsanto comes along and makes something where it's a suicide seed and only has one, produces one fruit. By the way, where are the sermons on that? With all the preachers and God's intent and desires, and these people trying to erase his, and her master plan, so to speak. They know better. And what if something goes wrong with that one seed? You got no more of that certain food. Look at that, grapes, more, no seeds. So that's the direction they're trying to go in. They got all that. You have to go to them. And unfortunately, as in India, you got like about 500,000, 400,000 farmers committed suicide with the deals they made with these companies, to go that way. And so this is all connected,
So as you're going through the Lord's Prayer, where you're focusing your energy on the particular chakra or gland, and you're trying to, are you visualizing that, or is it open, or will it open up? And I guess that's the goal, and that will allow you to connect with the higher self.
Yes, you can, in the beginning, just like with meditation, visualization, because the mind's a monkey, it wants to play with things. It's not used to just sitting in silence and no visuals. So we use these, just like the arts. I go to museums, I look at paintings, I look at Monet's water lilies, I feel like I get on a magic carpet looking at those colors, that turquoise and everything. I hear music, I see the beauty, but everything through the five senses, through the great artists, and just people expressing themselves. Everything is vibration, everything's creativity, when you're in the flow. But ultimately, all things seen and heard and touched and felt in all the five senses, there is the invisible beauty, even more behind all of that. As any great artist, if you read about their lives, will tell you, they only bring back such a little bit of the music that they hear, or the painting that they try to capture, or Newton on the beach holding the pebble, and everybody looks at him as a genius, and he sees the shoreline full of pebbles, or the information with Casey as Riley, Howard J. Riley, who opened Rockefeller Center, treated everybody from Bob Hope, A. West, Gloria Swanson, you name it. He said they got a gold mine down there in Virginia Beach. Sometimes they're only expressing a few of the gold nuggets, and they got a gold mine of information that's to be presented. And not just presented, but most importantly applied. That's where the progress is made. It isn't, by the way, I should tell you, that all the people who went to Edgar, there's only a small group of, usually women, who want to know, how can I be used? Most people got help and then they disappeared, They want to know, how can I be used? Like, we're made in the image and likeness, and God has no respect to our persons, and we all got this gold in us. How can I be used? And they were given, ready for this? They were given 24 lessons. Now, these lessons were not to be memorized and, and a test was done and they passed. No. They were given 24 lessons, which took them 11 years. Now, anybody can read those books and search for God. They're beautiful. The recent editions have the pictures of the people who really, just beautiful people, trying to overcome their conditioning and succeeding. And some of them became channels for healing, and some got, their soul, psychic abilities functioning where their eye opened up, and just, they became known as the glad helpers. And in fact, they still function every Wednesday officially down in Virginia Beach. And so, these lessons, as I say, it took them 11 years to, get the 24 lessons. It starts with cooperation and meditation, because it wasn't like Casey said, look at me. And sometimes people get that interpretation and may even present it that way. Look at Casey, look at Casey. Casey never said, look at me. Just like Jesus did. He said, I do nothing but the Father in me. Casey always pointed to, the source, the Master of Masters, the Lord of the Way. And as I tell people down there, he was told to be a vegetarian to maximize his potential. And you'll hardly see that in any book unless you read the readings for him. So the truth doesn't change. It's the same. We're just discovering it within this society, and we discover it as much as we desire to discover it. We have free will. And it's up to us to use that essential key to grow, or we've been so beaten up that we just throw in the towel and, we give up and we're dead before we're dead. And I see many people like that. They know they're being dumped on and not cared for in their communities and in their family, and, society and the government has no money for clean water, but they got money for another war. But they're going to get freedom somewhere else. But we don't want you folks, to have clean water, because we don't want you to have freedom from illness. So the inconsistencies. That's why Congress got such a low rating. I think it's like 9%. People know we're being lied to. Now you don't like to be lied to. Here's the truth, or some more of it. What are you going to do with it? Are you too beaten up? And you're going to throw in the towel, or are you going to, they say success, the best form of revenge is success. What are you going to do? If you don't like the disconnect, the ill will sent towards you, okay, admit the problem. That's the first part of it. Like a drug addict, we got to admit our problem, any kind of addiction, and that's half the cure. Then we realize that, we ain't going to get much help from most sources. Okay. So here's people who are giving you a key to overcome that and find your real self. When you were a kid, the innocence, but with the maturity of your adulthood. So you keep your childlike nature, you keep your playfulness, but yet you use your wisdom of your older years, while you're putting the pieces together. And you have a life, I guarantee you, more abundant than you can imagine. Like God says, prove me. It even says in the Bible, prove me. So certainly I, Anonymous, are going to say, challenge me.
Well, that's interesting. We were mentioning about the. I think people become so discouraged that they just turn off and absorb themselves into the superficial, where they think they'll find joy. And I think I've noticed that recently, that it's just, it's all about sports, and it's all about parties, and it's all about.
Yeah, it's what is it called? Bread and circuses in the Roman days. It's a big distraction. People can know every figures, their batting average, and how many homers they hit 5 years ago, and who won the pennant, or whatever the sport is. And they'd be hard pressed to name the 7 fruits of their spirit. I mean, you can name, practically every dictator, major one, world war certainly, and major criminals. But who are the ones that are caring for us? Who are the ones that wouldn't ever, kill you, your physical body, or want to take your money and steal from you?
Well, speaking of the political, why are they not teaching us this in the school system? What you're telling us?
Because the condition conditioning. They don't want you to know because the truth sets you free. Hence the falsehoods enslave us. Because there's a mindset here that would still put people in chains. In fact, they do in prisons, practically, and they do in other parts of the world still, you know. So it's to get a sense of power on an adrenal level, you know, on an excitability level, or a sense of monetary power, like 60 people got half the world, this, you know, financial world. But these people, you see, that's why I wish Gary would present the most documented example in human history of a figure with no education who knew more than anybody who went to school. Because these people are not afraid of, you know, it's like the ancient Essenes. They were more feared by the soldiers and the zealots, you know, whether it be the Roman soldiers or, you know, the zealots within their own group, you know, as far as the Jewish people. Because they represented the way of life. They represented the laws of karma. They represented physical health. They're vegetarian. They didn't do harm to animals. They meditated. They experienced God. They studied astrology. They believed in the return of souls. So if it's true, see, to these people, those 60 people, and to the ones who are trying to make a one-world government and the top and all that, if it's true that karma is as real as gravity, even though we don't see it, do you think, honestly, these people would really do what they're doing? So, that's why I present this figure in our time, most documented, who 2 presidents went to, and Tesla and Edison, you name it. Houdini couldn't disprove him. It isn't about Casey. It's about what Casey tapped into. It's about the compassionate love of our Creator giving us a message of inspiration and hope, verifying that a man laying down in Virginia Beach could diagnose somebody in China. And look at the life of the man. The man resisted his gift for many years, was afraid it was the devil. You know, he had to overcome his own religious conditioning. You know, and so my sister was telling me the other day, you know, the person told her, you know, watch out for that psychic stuff. That's the devil. I said, why didn't you answer her and say, well, how did Jesus know everybody's sin to write it in the sand? Isn't that psychic? How did he know to help the disciples go to that town and there's a donkey tied up by that particular house and go inside? Did he get a phone call? So psychic is simple, a neutral term for like electricity. You can light up a room or you can electrocute somebody. It can be used evilly. I don't deny that. We use it consistently, in a deep way. I don't deny that. There are magicians, and those things work. But what they eliminate is the idea of what they're thinking will come back, just like these drugs. If they really knew what they're putting out by killing, you know, these women and children to get oil, or, you know, if you want to stop, people over the border or coming across from another country, stop bombing them. It's just common sense. If people were bombing where you are, where I live, would you stay here?
Yeah, and I like to...
talking about immigrants, we don't talk the whole picture. Stop the war machine. Stop. Eisenhower warned against it. The founding fathers. Don't get involved with foreign entanglements. These people are the biggest traitors. So we give so much attention to them, news every day, but yet these are the words of everlasting freedom, the words of these great spiritual teachers that most people can't even name 5 of them. And these are the people that love us.
Yeah, when I see these South American Indians up here trying to survive, it always reminds me of how they've actually been disconnected from their own land. The whole economic system is a process of commodifying the land that was theirs, dispossessing them of it, because if they had their own land, which is originally theirs, they wouldn't be here.
Oh, there you go. So now you got to point the fingers at those 60, and whoever else they are, who want it all for themselves, and everybody else can basically go to hell and suffer and starve. And there's a Bible story of a rich guy, who didn't care for the poor, and he ended up in the spirit world, where he was in a place where I believe in hell, but I don't believe in it forever, even for the bad people. They're doing bad things. I shouldn't be saying bad people. It's even the bad, what we see as bad people in the essence of them, there's a good part of them. It's just that they probably had bad upbringings too. Their parents are probably not there. They send them off to schools. They're fighting with themselves. They're seeing other people. They're indulging in substances. So, they got a part of them too that's deep inside, been very hurt, and then it goes into an anger, and then they take it out, on the world,
Oh, that's funny you should say that. I picked up a book on the, it was actually on Diana, but they went into how the children are raised at almost like earliest of ages, they're sent out of the house and to boarding schools. They
Yes,
disconnect them
yes.
from the parents.
Yeah, well, look at Donald. Where do you think he went to? He was sent to a military school. Joe Salente was saying the other day, Donald was so bad, they sent him to military school. So you see, what you're talking about is an indication right in front of our eyes. So, you know, some part of him was divorce taken away from his childhood friends, the teenage friends, the young ladies he had an eye for. And right there starts the process of repression, and that stuff is stuck inside, and you want to take it out on others to show how bad I feel. I'm going to make you feel bad, and you know what it's like. You know, and so that's where the compassion comes in, even for these people. And I get angry with them sometimes, you know, but underneath it all, I want to digest my food. So I gotta, like the prayer says, forgive me as I forgive. That don't say forget and don't realize what's right and wrong, but forgive me as I forgive. Because think about it, if God didn't forgive us, where would any of us be? So it's a two-way, street. To be forgiven, we have to forgive, because people are basically, like the Buddhists would say, most of us are functioning in ignorance, call it sin, the missing of the mark, ignorance. Of course, the examples set 2,000 years ago, but then you get into, people question did he exist, or they make up the stories. The way I understand it now is we're here to understand what is love. We're here to understand it, to experience it, to share it. That's all it is. The whole Bible is a book about, any sacred book is a book about love. The whole book was summed up with love God with all our heart, our mind, and our soul. Isn't that what meditation is like about? Putting your whole attention on God. And then from there, you love your neighbor as yourself. It's a book about love. It's not complicated. You don't need to know Aramaic and Greek and Latin and Hebrew. We can't say what love is in English or any language, or you say it to a degree, but it's an experience, it's greater than the words, and so that's all it is. It's about love, and very few of us have been really brought up, it's easy to have children, don't take much to let that happen, but raising children, that's a creative endeavor. It's probably the most creative thing that humans can do, other than really blossom, into Buddhahood, awakening state. That's the most creative, act on earth, and raising children is such an art. Women, have not really helped many of them. The kids, they take the food away from the kids. They get very little, they're taking jobs away. These people are working. These kids are growing up, like almost being sent off to another place, but they're in their own home and they're abandoned. And they're up to these manipulation devices. Then you put them on medication, and then these soldiers, any one point they're running around, and then before you know it, they want to slow down. They smoke a little bit of this and that. That's
the one thing that irks me is the on the one hand they'll say family is the basis of society, like especially these conservatives and clerics. But what are your policies? It's like you said before. What are your actions actually doing? Like, I mean, it's not only that. They come as soon as they're born. They're giving inoculations by the numerous.
And in the world and in the country that touts freedom, more and more, like in California, people don't even have a choice. So, you say freedom on one side of the mouth, like Washington. On the other hand, you want to enslave people, whether with vaccinations or get them where they're not working and put them into a military, or you take them, you want to be an American, you sign up for the military, we'll take you. So this, and by the way, I want to say, very importantly, in the old days, 10 people could save the city, it was told. And I know you don't have thousands, hundreds of thousands of people listening to your show, but the ones who are out there, one person like Martin Luther King said is a majority. And if you really pursue this and open up those churches and doors and live a loving life, and let, most importantly, this whole practice, it's like Michelangelo's painting. He's reaching up, Adam, and you see, God, depicted as an older man, he's in good shape. There's a space between the fingers, because God's spirit seeks such to worship. So Michelangelo showed space between. When we allow that, the Christ, to come through in humility, when we allow that to come through, that's what can prevent major disasters. I have no doubt about that. If you got somebody along the line of an Edgar, not to mention his coming again, but somebody along those lines that could actually see things, and they know by tapping their phones that nobody told them nothing, nobody visited them. How did they know what these people in office, what happened to their family just now, or what happened on a certain part of the world, or what can help them physically when they're sick. So they got to say something invisible is real. It sees beyond the X-ray machines, and that'll give them pause. Because that's the only way out of this. These tools, these keys, is the only way from Armageddon.
Well, they need this as well, but I think that the problem is when you have the power and the money, that to the extent they have, that becomes such a distraction that there's no even thought of even.
Well, it could be. There are always in the history of the world, there are always people who do have a lot of money and they got it very hard. I used to work as a doorman, and it wasn't a majority, but there are people like that. You know, there were people in ancient Rome that Peter went to. He was like a senator, and his servant was healed, and before you know it, even I understand with the casing material, even one of the soldiers,
Oh yeah, centurion.
And he had the ideals of the brotherhood of the man. I mean, just like we speak about. So it's always a little leaven that leavens the whole loaf.
Let me ask you, you mentioned the...
Roosevelt had money, just to say, Roosevelt had money, with his wife Eleanor, though, he did good things, made good decisions to help unemployment and unions still somewhat, and so...
Oh yeah, that gets misinterpreted. It's not money is the root of all evil, it's the love of money.
Right, well said. That's true. That's a full quote. So that's, so those are the ones out there that we need to speak to, because the lesson that most likely they're not going to change. They're going to have to find this out the hard way. It's like they don't believe in gravity. They have to jump off the roof to find out there's gravity. So they got to pass, and then they'll see that they're not dead, and then they review their book of God's remembrance, their subconscious, so we show them, what they did and why they're in the place they're in, and eventually they'll come back again. But in the meantime, they get a little purging wherever they are, and but they're part of the eternal. Eventually they'll get it too, but for now, a lot of them, unfortunately, they're not in touch with themselves, and they really could allow those 60 people. Listen, they got enough food and houses to rent for 20 to 1,000 lifetimes. They really, if they got together with the rich of the other countries, they really could allow for really a golden age that we only look back on and hear about in ancient times. We could have a golden age in our time with solar power and abundant food and health care, and we could have it. People meditating and being creative,
I was actually thinking this. Do you think it's possible that they are actually aware of the spiritual, but have flipped it around to use it for selfish reasons?
Absolutely.
And that's why the pyramid gets associated with them.
Right. That's why the Masons and all these folks used the symbols from ancient times when they had civilization for thousands of years. And much of Europe was still pretty much still way behind. So the Greeks were learning there, but even the Egyptians, they got a lot of infusion from Atlantis. But that's another part of the story. So did the Indians, but that's another part of the story. And that was the red race, by the way, which is the lowest one on the wheel of the wheel of life there. But the Hopis are direct descendants of those people, and they saw what's coming. And so yes, they turned spirituality into magic, just like Hitler was a medium, and people went to magic around it. But they just did the will and will. Their self-will. It wasn't like thy will be done. It was my will be done. That's the difference between spirituality and the way I see it, magic.
That's actually the downside of tapping in, and you mentioned before that you have to be strong enough to deal with it, because you could easily tap into it and flip it. And that's actually why I think the psychics, they get associated with the negative, because it's that can also be used for selfish purposes.
And some of them do use it that way. And usually they lose their gifts. If you look at them over the years, they'll lose their gifts. So when you disconnect from the source of all knowing, after a while you get less knowing. It's just common sense. So yeah, everybody's tempted, and even pursuing this practice, we all get our temptations. That's why it says, lead us not into temptation, the solar plexus area, but delivering us from evil, which goes to the heart. Leading us not down, but up. And those, so everybody goes through, all of this. We all have to face our temptations, and we all, have to face we approach the glory, the glory of knowing who made us, and the glory, the beauty of that, the immortality of the radiance of the spirit, You just think it might start to laugh because it's a buoyancy. You know, it's like you know, no matter what number you have in your age, you're older than the stars. We're younger than a newborn baby. You know, we're here to God's creator. You know, and the expression. It was meant to be a creativity here in the body to keep the connection with the spirit world. But at a certain point in history, we hit that drum too hard with our cell phone, and the drum, you know, broke, the snare drum, whatever, broke. So it's expression, because we got eternity. I mean, after all, there's only God. So here he is radiating all the suns put together, and it's what to do. I want to talk to myself. So you make some galaxies, you know, billions of them, right? Billions of stars in each one, and then you create condense it more, and you get a more concentration, you get a planet, and then you put it more, and you get parts yourself, and created of the elements, and in this first creation, and you breathe a bunch of life, and you gotta, you know, but keep the connection. But being given free will, we can rebel, and then we can experience what it's like in the body of harmony to be like a cancer, and discover the pain of that until we come back. That's like the prodigal son. Even at 60, even the worst criminal, eventually they'll come back, you know. But, you know, they need that, most of them, in their ignorance, no. But deep inside they do. Very deep inside. So they can't betray, you know, they got a smirk on their face, that lets you know that, you know, they're not as happy as they want you to believe or it's wonderful. But, you know, then you say a prayer for even them ultimately. Because, you know, that's just a wayward son, a wayward daughter, Hillary, you know, it's, you know, they suffer. You know, I think her mother was, she had some, well, they all have hardships, you know, Bill didn't come up too rich either, but, you know, all these talents, you know, they go on, you know, taking the bite of that knowledge without the wisdom how to use it. It's the insecurity in Obama, you know, they growing up, you know, they got such abilities and they're wasting them, you know, for the most part. But that's them. We have our own work to do, and in the meantime, let's focus more on that connection between what put us here and us, and bring more, you know, peace and joy, and you know, some harmony into the midst of chaos out here. Within ourselves and outside our building and our neighborhood, you know.
So that's the goal of the practice you put across today, is connecting with the. There's that scripture, God is love, connecting with the Creator within. The love of the Creator who creates all things and is present in all things.
Absolutely, and again, it's a thought, a beautiful thought. But the experience is far greater. You know, words are a challenge to be filled by the Spirit. Shut the TV, shut the radio, do your deep breathing, use an affirmation, use your visualization. Ultimately, you can just be in the quietness and you just feel the Spirit and smile. The promise is He will take care of us. She will take care of us. But we have to, what's the saying? You know, seek the kingdom first and everything will be added. That's the promise. Are we up for the challenge? You know, seek me first. Unify your different minds. Eat good. Put good things in your body temple. It's like a, what's that though? They said in the Bible. By the way, folks, I don't know the whole Bible, but I know key parts. Others make do as they may. But for me, I serve a living God. A living God. And that's today. It's not a God of death. Like the devil spelled backwards, lived. It's a God today. You know, whatever the glories and beauties we had in the past, we can have them now and we can have them in the future. If we connect to the source of inspiration, creativity, intelligence, you know, wisdom, joy, peace, patience, compassion, and yes, long-suffering. I believe God senses our suffering.
Okay, so let's say I'm going through the Lord's Prayer,
right,
and I'm focusing my attention on the various chakras related to the prayer which you went through.
Right.
What will that open up the chakra, and that will allow the connection to the Creator?
Well, it doesn't open by forcing it. It'll open when you do your practice, we do our practice, and we go out and live what we're experiencing. When we live that we are our brothers and sisters keeper. and the animals, caretakers of the planet and the ecology. When we take that into our world, and not major ways, just small steps in the beginning, we grow to heaven, we don't go to heaven. So you can focus on the color. For instance, when it says that, let's say the pituitary gland is violet, think of the color violet. Look at colors, find colors that violet you like, see different shades of it. And when you look at a painting, when I look at a painting, I look at the turquoise, which is a color I relate to more and more. When I look at that turquoise in Monet's water lily, the modern art, I actually feel it. And I do a little breathing when I'm there, get my breath going so I can get more receptive in my head. And as they say with meditation, you actually make new pathways beyond the conditioned mind with all those roadblocks and upheavals and cracks in the road, so to speak.
Now, how is the pituitary gland connected to the Creator?
Well, he made it. The pituitary gland is the seventh gland. Its silence is golden. You ever heard that saying? That's the seventh gland. And that, you get to that, you'll know how you're related to the Creator. You'll experience it. You'll experience your oneness with Him and her. You experience a love that, no one can take away from you. Every relationship, you're going to have ups and downs. As a human being, you have your beautiful moments, and then you have the moments where there's the attitude, and it don't feel good. Your nerves involved, your emotions, and and you forgive, you come back to it. But this is like, I guess in essence, what I'm saying is, I've never been let down by a meditation. In other words, God is in the listening process, being tuned up like an instrument. I always come out renewed. I just like going to nature. I always go out to nature. I see you on your videos. You go out to nature. I know people not religious. They go to nature and they feel, better. Well, what are they using? Look at the words. They feel. You can't see that. They can't put that under a microscope. They feel better. But more and more when you meditate, even when you close your eyes, don't look down. Look up. Definitely look straight ahead. Like in the middle, you leave your eyes open. Let the monkey mind see a picture or a tree or a horizon. But in the middle of it, whatever the middle is for anybody, where you are is where you are. Don't do too much. Where you are is where you are. Be patient with yourself. And eventually you close your eyes and do the second half. But look with your eyes either straight ahead, even though they're closed, and ideally look up. Because when we pass away, brothers and sisters, our eyes go automatically up to the pineal area, which also, by the way, has quartz crystal in it. Or, when we're in ecstasy or approaching upliftment, we automatically look up. So, when your eyes are closed, look up towards your forehead. It may feel a little strenuous, then you go straight ahead again. But then look up again, with your eyes closed, and while that's where the throne of glory, that's where you're meeting God. That's where you're meeting God. Because that, even when the brain develops, that's when it starts. The whole body develops, that's where it starts. So that's the silver cord. That's the golden bowl. That's what connects people even when they pass. And that cord is connected for about 3 days, and then it's severed. The main purpose is just to feel the love. I mean, it's important, I think, to put the attention in those areas. Like if you focus on to say you focus on something enough, the energy goes there. But ultimately, your main horse before all the chariot of theoretical words and images and names, the essence of it all is God is spirit and seeks such to worship. Everything else will take care of itself. Like some people try and force the Kundalini. That's not very wise. It'll open when it's meant to open. You lead a loving life, they open. You don't try and make them open. You just focus on the love and lead a loving life. Everything else will follow automatically. Right? Seek the king, everything else will be added, including the colors of your aura and the colors of your chakras, and whether it be the key tone, so to speak, of it, the key notes, because there's even sounds, the body vibrates. The main thing is just have joy with it, have fun with it. It's an adventure, and pursued, the promises, everything will be added. You don't see good news, you don't taste it, you don't touch it, but if you really give yourself over, and the old-fashioned word, repent, be sorry, we all did wrong. We're in trouble, we're in pain, people die, things don't work out in relationships, our pet died, we know people died in war. There's a lot of suffering out here.
Well, the process is just the methods is just the ladder or the door to the
good words.
The Creator.
The Creator, right? Exactly.
I mean, so you sort of need the ladder and the door of the
Right.
methods that you're talking about with the Lord's Prayer and the chakras and the glands and the auras
Absolutely.
as the ladder or the door that brings us to. That's not the goal. The goal is the experience of the Creator within.
There you go. There you go. But you use the tools. You use the tools. You use the tools, what do you use to build the house? We already got the house. So what we want to do is really occupy it and let it be occupied by, the Most High. Not Dan Harriet or, Departed One or, the promises we go, we can go to directly to headquarters ourselves. And when the man said, I'm with you always to the end of the world, why not go with that? The Holy Spirit will come to comfort. But the second sentence, not just comfort, will teach us. That'll be our main teacher. That's what Casey was used for. That promise was fulfilled in his life with no education. He wanted to help people. That was his prayer from a childhood, especially children. And you'll see how that was revealed, that gift was given to him with the Holy Spirit to diagnose people without knowing anything about them. And then eventually predict the world wars and the Dead Sea Scrolls and the pyramids. And we were here for millions of years, he said, even before the scientists said that. They only said it was 1,000 back in the 20s. He said 10 million. We're up to about 4. Most importantly, he's saying how, like with that study group, and 10,000 people went in, there's only a handful or two, 20-something people that want to know how can I be used. And they stayed there and they worked with that material and they applied it. They studied it, they talked about it, they applied it, and the big key is application. It's not all theoretical. That's a little part of it. That's the least important part. It's important, but it's the least important. The most important part is putting this into practice. And when you do that, everything is taken care of itself. God sees that, and we'll, what's done in secret, as he says, will be